Appreciate you for tuning in live. Today on this show, we're going to be discussing exactly how I would move forward with trying to get a deal in the next 30 days based upon what I'm seeing here in 2021. So for everybody that's watching, like, I get the number one question I get all the time is like, I can't find a deal. I can't find a deal. I can't find a deal. And I always have to rewind back and say, what does your marketing look like on your day-to-day activities? You're always telling me you're staying busy, you're putting all this work in, but you're not getting a deal. I always say, what does your day-to-day activities look like? And if it's not filled with marketing from day to day to day consistently, I feel very strongly that that has a big part in why you're not getting your deals done. But I'm going to talk specifically today about the things that I would do based upon my experience if I was to try and get a deal in the next 30 days. To put that together, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on my experience and how I got started. So I started investing in 2007. I was buying properties directly off of the MLS. I did my first probably 4 to 5 properties off of the MLS. Now, I started at the end of 2007, which was right before the crash, and I was doing nothing but rehab. So, I was rehabbing right in the midst of the downturn. But even with that to be said, I was doing pretty good, but it was all coming off the MLS. And the MLS in 2010 was very, very easy to pull a property off of. There was just a saturation of distressed properties, foreclosures, all of those types of things in the housing market, and it made getting the deals pretty easy. So I'm still rehabbing. 2012 rolls around and I start buying from wholesalers. I didn't know what a wholesaler was. I had no clue how wholesaling worked. All I knew is I was getting all of these solicitations from wholesalers saying, hey, I've got discounted properties. I'll sell you one. So I'm sitting here in the back of my mind. It's like, okay, I'm buying these things off the MLS. I'm making money off of them, but I'm getting these emails from wholesalers saying, wow, they can hook me up with some serious deals. So I'm like, I can increase my deal flow if I just buy from these wholesalers. So I bought my first one from a wholesaler. The margins on it weren't nearly as good as I was hoping to be. I was somewhat inexperienced at the time. Even if buying off the MLS, I was still pretty green. I didn't have a very strong understanding of the real estate game in whole. All I really understood was how to do construction. So rehab was working well for me, but the numbers of it and all that was still fairly new to me. So I start buying from wholesalers. And it didn't take me long, maybe a year or so after buying from wholesalers, that I start going through my mind. It's like, okay, how are these wholesalers finding these deals? Because if I was getting them off the MLS, now I'm getting wholesalers that are finding these off market and they're soliciting them and selling them to me. How can I find these same deals? Like, what can I do to find these deals? So that's when I started marketing. It was around 2012, 2013 is when I originally started really kicking in. Daniel's saying I'm breaking up. If anybody else is having some issues with my audio, let me know. I'm not hearing anything on my side. Okay, so 2012 is about where I started kicking off my marketing and really didn't understand the video's buffering and breaking up on YouTube. Man, that's no good. Let me see what I can do. Let me see what I can do to fix that. Give me just 1 second. Give me just 1 second. All right, let's see if that fixes it. I've still got quite a few people here. Let me see if that fixed the issue. Stream's lagging. Give me a couple seconds. Let's see if it comes back. All right, let me know if this cleans up. Is anybody else's buffering or is it just my crappy internet? I think there's quite a few people right now having some issues. So let me get y'all to come back here in just a second. If y'all got a good clean audio and video feed, let me know. I made some changes. Let me see if y'all are doing good. I've got a really cloudy, rainy day right now, and I'm actually on satellite internet, so it's not always the best. I'm buffering as well. Well, that's no fun. Let me see if I can figure this part out. Give me a couple seconds. All right, I think we're doing good now. I think this may have fixed. All right, appreciate it, guys. Let me change one more thing. All right, hopefully that's all good. So I'll go ahead and rewind and start back at the beginning just a little bit to let all of y'all that were having some buffering issues catch back up. But the number one question I'm hit with consistently, no matter what, is I can't get a deal. How do I find a deal? What can I do to get a deal? What can I do to get a deal? I'm going to go through this show and tell you exactly what I would be looking at and the things that I would be trying to do if I had to score a deal within the next 30 days. That goes back to 2010 or so. I started out in 2007. To give you a brief history on myself, I started out in 2007, and I was buying properties directly off the MLS. That was right before the crash. I was buying properties on the MLS, and I was doing pretty good. I had a construction background, had no clue what I was doing in real estate, no clue in real estate whatsoever. With that to be said, I understood construction, so buying them off the MLS, I could do the repairs. A lot of the repairs I could do myself, and it allowed me to create the margins I needed to make some money. Now, I did that from probably about 2007 up until about 2010. And throughout that time, I had no clue what I was doing as far as a real estate investor goes. I knew how to swing a hammer. I knew real estate construction, but I had no clue about real estate investing as a whole. For everybody that's watching, let me know if your audio and video is coming in clean again. I made some changes, see if that cleans some stuff up. Please let me know. But around 2010, I started getting hit up by a bunch of wholesalers saying, hey, I'll sell you a property. I'll sell you a property at a discount. And I didn't even know what wholesaling was. Man, apparently my internet is still not good. Oh, I got somebody else saying the internet's good. Okay. Let me, all right. Let me change up one more thing. I got people saying I'm good. I've got other people saying I'm breaking up. You're good on YouTube and Facebook. I'm going to have to just keep going. I hope everything cleans up for y'all. I'll have to figure out what I can figure out on this. All right. So around 2010, I started getting solicited by wholesalers to buy their properties. I have no clue what wholesaling is. Like, I literally have no clue what a wholesaler is. With that to be said, I'm sitting here like they're getting me properties. Like, I'm getting 50 of them in my inbox all day long, every day. And I don't understand this. These are off market properties. How are they getting them? So around 2010, I started buying from wholesalers. And by 2012, I'm still buying from wholesalers, but I'm starting to get in the back of my mind. It's like, all right, what can I do to find these properties myself? As most rehabbers would probably say, that's how they evolve into wholesalers. If they started out rehabbing, more often than not, they'll start getting a ton of solicitations from wholesalers to buy properties. And then they start saying, you know what? I'm doing just fine rehabbing, but I want to start wholesaling because I can get the best of the best deals. I can do all this marketing, keep the ones I want, and I'll sell off everything else that doesn't work. I think one of the things that people don't understand or misrepresent is how time consuming wholesaling is. It is a full-time job. There is a massive amount of systems and marketing processes that have to go into wholesaling. You're not just a rehabber and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm going to go create a whole nother business, which is what it is. Some people are like, I'm just going to wholesale on the side. Not so much. If you're going to try and keep a steady flow of deals for your rehabs and you start doing wholesaling is going to take up a big chunk of your time. You really ought to just stay in your lane. Like, that's one thing I could say for anybody that's watching right now. Like, pick one strategy that you really feel like you can get in there and just kick butt at and stick with it. Like, if you're doing really good at rehabbing, don't get this shiny object over here called wholesaling and be like, I'm going to just jump over here and start wholesaling and take the cream of the crop. You're going to end up just tanking your business. But that's exactly what I did. And that's exactly what a lot of real estate investors that are doing like rehabbing and stuff like that do. They start seeing that they can get all these discounted properties if they just go straight to the source, and they discount how much effort it is to get to the source. So that's when I started digging in and studying marketing. Around 2012, I started reading a lot of blog articles. I started watching a lot of videos, just doing anything I could to learn more about marketing. Now, with marketing taken into consideration, I'm going to take a word that I learned, and it's called an avatar. So what do I mean by avatar? Avatar is like the person that you are trying to speak with. Like the avatar is going to be different across the board when you're doing your marketing. And I consider the avatar to be the most important piece of your marketing. If I'm going to sit down and I'm going to market to, let's just say, an absentee landlord, your typical, what would you call that, landlord. The way I speak to that landlord and the pain points that I would express to that landlord are not going to be the same thing as if I was marketing to a probate, an executor of a probate, or the same way I would talk to someone that was facing foreclosure. Each one of those individual people have a different avatar. They have different problems that are going on with their property. They have different things that are going on in their life. They have different states of mental, emotional clarity, I guess. Like, when you're dealing with the executor of an estate, they just lost a loved one. You're probably going to need to approach and deal with that person differently than someone that's in pre-foreclosure. The stresses of the pre-foreclosure aren't quite the same. And then when I'm dealing with an absentee landlord, I've got to think about their relationship with the tenants and all of those types of things. So that's the avatar. I cannot express enough how important it is for you to dive into the mind of your avatar and think about what's going on in their life and how you can help solve those problems. I would consider that to be one of the best things you can do to increase your conversion rates on any of the marketing you do. I don't care what it is. Any of the marketing that you're doing, if you have a specific avatar in mind, which you should roll those types of things through the back of your mind and try and say, what do they want? What do they need? What problems do they have right now? How can I help them? Those are the things that you can think of, and that'll also help you out in your negotiations. That'll also help you out when you get a phone call from these people, because a lot of this stuff's already been solved in your mind. So I would always sit down and I'd whiteboard. I'd get a big whiteboard out and I'd lay out those columns. What do they want? What do they need? What are their problems? How could they have possibly gotten into this scenario? What are the most probable outcomes that they would like? And if I've got all that in my mind, it makes my phone calls and my marketing a lot easier. Now, 2012, 2013, when I'm starting to ramp this up, the big things in the market right then were direct mail, postcards, bandit signs. We started putting car signs on our cars right around then. At one point in time, I had, I believe, 67 cars with my marketing on the back of it, just on the back window, big sign saying, we pay full retail for houses. We buy houses in any condition with a link to my phone number. I had a bunch of cars driving around with my advertising on it, but those were the marketing mediums that I chose at the time. Before then, email was a real big thing. I didn't find a lot of success with email marketing at that time. Drip campaigns on stuff like that was really big. I wasn't doing a lot of digital marketing with capture pages and things like that. But the things that I really dug in deep on was direct mail and bandit signs. I was getting a considerable amount of deal flow from those, and I was pretty happy with my results. It took me probably 4 or 5 years to really hone in my messaging on my marketing, really hone in the messaging on my postcards, on any of the stuff that I was doing. And I want to rewind and repeat that so that way anybody that's watching this that's fairly new into this industry, it took me about 5 years to hone that in. If you're just now getting into this, you need to understand that this is almost like college, except for you're teaching yourself. You can't expect to jump out there and then in 3 weeks become a real estate multimillionaire. It takes most people 6 to 7 years to hit that status, but they have to stick with it. The thing is, most people don't stick with it for 6 or 7 years because those first 3, 4, 5 years can be pretty rough. There are certainly the rock stars that jump in there and they just come in there and perform like none other and they just kill it. And, within a year, they're just doing massive amounts of work, but that's not the norm. Most people I talk to don't hit that status for at least 6 to 7 years. So if you're getting in there and you're feeling the hiccups and the bumps and you're feeling the bruises and you're like, man, I don't want to get up and do this anymore, you got to embrace the grind. You got to jump in. You got to go at it. But after close to 5 years, I had a fairly well-oiled marketing system. I was pumping out probably around 25 to 30,000 postcards a month and dropping probably around 400 to 500 bandit signs a week. Not a whole lot. I said 400 to 500 bandit signs a week. That's a lie. 400 to 500 bandit signs a month. So I wasn't going real crazy on the bandit signs. The postcards were doing good for me. And I'd heard at that point in time about RVMs, ringless voicemails. I'd heard about those types of things. I was using them in 2012, way back before like some of these more popular RVM services were available. There was a company called Voice Blast. I think it was Voice Blast, and it was a very rudimentary 1998 looking web system, and it worked. But the only way it could do it was it wouldn't just do a ringless voicemail. What it would do is it would ring your phone, you'd answer your phone, and it says this person has a voicemail ready to deliver for you. Please hang up to deliver the voicemail. So it didn't work out all that well. But RVMs really evolved from 2012 when I first heard about them up until about 2015 and 16. So 2012 to about 16, heavy on bandit signs, heavy on postcards. Around 2016-17, I started incorporating ringless voicemails because by that time, a new service called Sly Broadcast came out. And Sly Broadcast gave me the ability to drop ringless voicemails without that awkward, if they answered the phone, little recording saying, hey, please hang up the phone to deliver a voicemail. So I started getting into ringless voicemails really big about that time. I'm saying all of this predominantly because I want to bring to light something that I consider to be true with just about anything. Things move in cycles. You've heard me talk about cycles before in the real estate market. I'm going to talk about cycles today in the real estate marketing. 2010, I feel like emails were kind of dying out. Emails were doing real good prior to that. I'd say probably around that 2003 to 2007, 8, 9 range. People were excited to get an email. I don't know if y'all remember the evolution of the internet. I'm pretty old here, so I'm kind of disclosing some of this stuff. But hold on. I'm still getting a lot of complaints about the video quality. I really wish this wasn't happening, but there's not much I can do about it. There's just not much I can do about it. But to jump back on the cycles, real estate moves in cycles, business moves in cycles, demands, ebbs and flows, things move in cycles. Email marketing was doing well. People were excited to get email in their inbox. Now we're going to start talking about the avatar. I want you to think about that word avatar. People were starting by 2010 to get tired of the spam email hitting their inbox. Just constant, nonstop spam emails. In 1998, if you opened up your email and you got mail, you were excited, like there was something new going on. It was interesting. You wanted to see all of the mail. You wanted to click every single one of them, open it, read it, and you were proud at the end of the day when your inbox was empty. 2010 rolled around. You're looking for spam filters. You were looking for ways to block and stop it all. People were getting tired of the emails. 2010, 2011, 2012. 2012 is when I started jumping in on the postcards. I was doing pretty good with the postcards, And then over a short period of an evolution, probably the 2 to 3 year mark, I started getting a lot more people responding back with just nasty grams. They'd call me up and be like, quit effing sending me all these postcards. I'm tired of getting all these postcards. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. Quit sending me postcards. Guess what I'd do? I'd keep sending postcards. You got to keep your marketing going. But what I want to say right about here is, let's think about that avatar. 2015, 2016 is when I really started getting a lot more phone calls from people like, quit sending me mail. I'm tired of it. Quit it. I'm tired of going to my mailbox and just being overran with postcards. Stop it. Okay? Doesn't that sound kind of familiar to what you heard with emails? People get tired of it. They're like, I'm tired of spamming it. And no longer, they just kind of put on a screen. They don't even read it anymore. It's just gone. Postcards. You first start out doing that, maybe not too many people are sending out the direct mail. They kind of jumped on the email bandwagon. And when you start sending out the direct mail, it's a lively pleasure. Right around 2015, 2016 is whenever I started seeing the voice over IP marketing really tick up. You really started seeing more people using the RVMs, started seeing more people doing the ringless voicemails, and you started seeing, I didn't see text messaging around that time. Text messaging started really coming in around 2019, 2018 for me, from what I was seeing. That was killing it. People were doing really good with their cold calls. People were doing really good with their text messaging. People were doing really good with their RVMs. People still are. One of the things that are really nice about the RVMs, texts, and cold calls is the cost per touch. What I mean by cost per touch is, for me to send out a postcard, I'd have to spend, let's say, 40 cents a postcard. If I wanted to touch that person 7 times, that'd be $2.10 for every person that I was wanting to target. You need to target people more than once. You can't just send them one postcard and then call it done. Every postcard I'd set up, I would set it up on a multi-touch campaign. Week 1, week 2, week 3, month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, and that would kind of be like my general marketing basis. I'd hit them rapidly up front, and then I'd spread out the next 3 to 4 over the course of several months. Similar with an RVM, similar with a text message, similar with a cold call. That follow-up campaign coming in behind it, it's a lot cheaper with this voice over IP marketing services. If I go out and I skip trace a homeowner, I got a phone number. Let's say that cost me 10 cents, 15 cents, 20 cents, whatever it ends up costing you. That's a one-time cost, and now I can market to that person repeatedly for little to no costs. Great opportunity. Well, what I started hearing around 2017 was a refreshing difference here. I've got a lot of homeowners saying, I appreciate you're the first person that called me. I was sending out RVMs. I was sending out a lot of RVMs, and they'd respond back to me, and they would say, hey, I appreciate you giving me a call. Like, I've got a mailbox full of letters. You're the only person that took the time to call me. I'd like to talk with you about selling my house. That was a totally different response than what I was getting with the direct mail at that time. Sure, I was getting people calling me to sell their house, but I was still getting a lot of people calling me saying, take me off your list, quit sending me mail, quit doing all this, quit doing all that. But when I started sending RVMs out, I would get quite a few people calling me back saying, hey, you're the only person that took the time to call me. I want to see what we can do. Can we do business together? Now, this is the avatar. Think about this. Think about today. What is the avatar today? If I have a absentee landlord, free and clear property, absentee landlord, what is that person thinking right now? What is that person doing right now? I'd like to see in the comments, some of y'all that are watching this, come back through and give me some comments. Let me know what you think the avatar is doing right now, and I'll come back and I'll give you my opinion of how I would analyze this absentee landlord with a free and clear property, and how I would market to that person today if I was trying to get a deal from them. And I'll get back to that right after this commercial break.
Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com. This is Steve. Steve is a successful real estate investor. Steve is wearing glasses, so therefore you know he's a successful real estate investor. You go, Steve. Go, Steve, go. Go get those dollars. You see that blue dot? That's Steve. Just looking at houses left and right. Look at him go. Get the Propelio mobile app and drive for dollars today. All without leaving your car.
So, the question I asked before we hit that quick break. What do you think that avatar is doing right now? The absentee landlord with a free and clear property. What do you think that they're thinking right now? German came back and he said stressing out. I really think that that's a pretty good assumption of what's happening here. Let me give you some thought processes and feedback. I kind of took you through 2010 to about 2017. 2017, RVM started really picking up for me, really got good. What do I think's happening right now? How hard is it for someone to go out, grab an absentee landlord list with high equity or free and clear, skip trace it, and to send them a text message, to send them an RVM, or to give them a cold call? I want you to think about this. Like, this is me trying to associate your thought processes with how I would approach my marketing, because I want you to really start incorporating this thought process into all of the marketing you're doing. You're sitting here saying, okay, I'll go get an absentee landlord list. I'm going to skip trace it. I'm going to cold call it. I'm going to text it. I'm going to RVM it. That was doing real good in 2017. Probably still doing good for some of y'all today. But let me throw some thought processes into that. Just like in 2005, 2006, when people started saying, I am tired of all of my spam emails. Everybody jumped on the email marketing bandwagon because it was working. People were excited to get an email. By 2005, 4, 3, 2, people were tired of getting spam emails. People were extremely tired of getting spam emails. So when people started going back to sending postcards, there was a little bit of an alleviation there, and people were like, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to send me a postcard. And then postcards. Everybody jumped on postcards. Massive amounts of postcards going out. Then that same absentee landlord is like, I am tired of going out to my mailbox and I can't even get to my mail because it's overflowing with real estate marketing. That happens. And then somebody gets this bright idea. Okay, let's go out and do some voice over IP marketing. Let's send text messages, cold calls, RVMs. That landlord's a little bit excited now. He's like, you know what? I appreciate you giving me a phone call. You're the only person that sent me a call. I'm going out there and I can literally open up my mailbox and it's just overflowing with mail. I appreciate you giving me a phone call. What kind of stress do you think that landlord's going through right now? Who in here enjoys getting spam anything? How many people in here enjoy getting spam text messages? How many people in here have completely and totally stopped answering their phone unless they have it programmed on their phone? Like if it's not a programmed save contact on your phone, how many of y'all still answer the phone? How many of y'all just let it go straight to voicemail? If it's an RVM, good for you. Like you're going to get the RVM. But for me personally, I haven't checked my voicemail in probably 3 years. So for anybody that's ever out there trying to give me a phone call, I don't answer my phone. I don't check my voicemail. I just don't. Unless my phone is somebody that I absolutely know and I'm not stuck in the middle of something that I'm doing, I'll answer my phone. And that's about the only time I'll answer my phone. I prefer text messaging because I can look at it whenever I want to look at it. But who in here enjoys getting spam text messages? I want you to sit here and think about this. If you're a landlord, and let's just say the average landlord is a demographic that's probably a slightly bit higher than a millennial, maybe a Gen Xer, maybe a generation before that. Do you think they're really enjoying getting 500, 600, 700 text messages a month from random people saying, I'm a real estate investor, I want to buy your house. I'm a real estate investor, I want to buy your house. They're getting tired of their voicemails getting blown up. That demographic might check their voicemails a little more often. Do you really think they're enjoying that? Do you really think that it's even phasing them anymore? Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, they were like, oh, okay, I got a voicemail. Oh, it's somebody looking to buy my house. Let me give them a call back. Or I got this text message. What's this text message from? Let me call them up and see what's going on. That might have been your avatar 5 years ago. And I'm not going to sit here and say that it doesn't work today. It's a really cheap cost per touch. And I would certainly probably still do it as long as I was falling within the letter of the law and I wasn't getting myself in any trouble with it. They're cracking down on it a lot. But what would I do if I was trying to get a deal in the next 30 days? I'm going to break this down for you. And I want you to think about the avatar that I'm sending this to. I would go out and I would pull an absentee landlord list that was high equity or free and clear. And I'd probably focus in on free and clear because there's more opportunity to score a deal. But free and clear or high equity, absentee landlord, possibly even absentee landlord out of state, depending upon my marketing budget. What I meant by absentee landlord out of state by my marketing budget is it makes the list smaller and smaller and smaller. If you have a limited marketing budget, the more targeted you can make your list, the higher the probability of you pulling a deal out of it is within your budget. But let's say I have a very limited budget. I try to stack my list as deep as I can. Absentee landlord, out of state, high equity, free and clear, possibly behind on taxes, possibly in pre-foreclosure. I'm not even going to get into the rest of that. I'm going to stick with absentee landlord, out of state, high equity. If I pull that list, and the very first thing I do is I go skip trace it, and then I go out there and I send it out, a bunch of text messages. Do you think I'm the first person in that line? Do you think I'm the first person that's annoyed this person? Do you think I'm the first one that this person is cussed out because they're tired of getting all the spam text messages and emails, or spam text messages and phone calls and voicemails? No. What I would do is two things, and you're going to see me contradict myself here because I consider marketing to be a something you got to feed. You got to feed it. And if I'm on a budget, here's how I would approach this. I would skip trace the list, and I would save that phone number. But my very first touch is I would send that landlord, that absentee owner out of state with a free and clear property, I would send them a postcard. Now, I'm not going to just send them a postcard and say, okay, deal's done. That's not going to be the only thing I do. That postcard has to be important. That postcard has to get that person to stop. That postcard has to get that person to catch their attention, take the time to read it, and then engage them enough to get you to call them back. Sending the postcard's not just it. Marketing is not just cut and dry. You don't just go out and grab some postcard off the internet and think you're going to go make $1 million. I think a good postcard should take you at least a day or two to get your rough draft done on. And then you should hone that postcard in over the course of 4 or 5 months and then continuously evolve it over years. How would I address this postcard though? How would I put this postcard together in such a way that I feel like it would really capture the attention of this absentee landlord that is flat out pissed off about all the text messages they're getting? What am I going to do? I was thinking about this the other day. I was watching a webinar and, they're talking about, oh, go out and get you an RVM and do this and do that. It works. It does. But if I was really wanting to nail a higher probability deal with a better margin, I would send the postcard. And what I would probably put on one side, the big side of the postcard where you got all the imagery in really big text, I would probably say something along the lines of, are you tired of real estate investors texting you, sending you voicemails, and consistently harassing you trying to buy your property? Big title statement. Do you think that might catch their attention? Do you think if they pull out this postcard and it's just really big font, like the font's like huge, are you tired of real estate investors spamming your texts and voicemails trying to buy a house from you? I would almost be guaranteed to tell you that would catch their attention. That avatar's probably tired of it. That avatar is probably flat out tired of getting all this spam. That's probably why legislation's coming in here and trying to stop this. And then I'd flip the postcard over and said, if you want a real investor that can buy your house, I've bought several in your area, so on and so forth. I don't have to get too crazy with it. But what I'm really trying to do is on the front side of the card with that hero message, that big title, I'm trying to hit a pain point. I want to hit a pain point. I want to poke it. It's called pain and pleasure. It's a marketing tactic where you discover their pain, you poke at it, and then you provide yourself as the solution. So I know that the person's pain, the pain that this avatar is feeling is they're tired of the spam. They're tired of it. And they're probably not getting a whole lot of postcards. And if they are getting postcards, it's probably around the general line of what they've seen for the past 5 or 6 years, 10 years ago. If it's a free and clear property, they've probably had this property for a while. Well, they're probably used to the postcards that they were getting back in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well, whenever I send this postcard out and I got a big message on the front of it and it says, are you tired of real estate investors trying to texting you, spamming you with text and email or texts and phone calls trying to buy your house? They flip it over and say, I would be interested in buying your property at XYZ Street. I'm a professional investor. I've been in this industry for XYZ. I'm capable of purchasing your property even at full retail value. For people that don't understand how to buy properties at full retail value, you need to understand creative financing. I'll just take a quick tangent on that. Who in here would be willing? I've asked this to a lot of people in the past, so if you've heard this before, feel free to chime in. How many people watching would be willing to pay $1 million for a house that's only worth $100,000? House is worth $100,000 in best condition it could ever be, and it's only worth $100,000. Who in here would be willing to pay $1 million for it? I would be willing to pay $1 million for a $100,000 house if it was my terms. If it's their price, it's my terms. So what kind of terms could I structure to buy $1 million house for $100,000 house for $1 million? Well, let's just say I want my payments to be no more than $100 a month. Well, if it's $100 a month and it's $1 million, that's a really long loan. It is, but you want 10 times more than what your house is worth. So if you amortize the loan over 100 years, you give me a $100 monthly payment with no interest, and the house will rent for $1,000. Yeah, I just made $900 a month in cash flow. I'll buy the house for $1 million. I'll never sell it. I can't sell it. But you know what? If inflation keeps going and I've held that house for 100 years, I'll own it free and clear. Or at least my great grandkids will own it free and clear. Are you understanding why I'd be willing to pay much more for a house than what it's worth if the terms are on my side? So I would note on the back side of the postcards, like, I don't need a massive discount. I can pay full retail. And I'd give them some contact information to get back in touch with me. So that right there is how I would be targeting my marketing right now. And I hope that y'all caught what I was thinking through that. Now, one of the things I need to say is, if I rewind this conversation back about 2 or 3 minutes, I said the first thing I would do is skip trace them, and I would hold that phone number, and then I would start sending them postcards. That's postcard number 1. I would make sure I sent them 5 or 6 or 7 postcards over the course of the next 30 days. Like I said, I'm wanting a deal in 30 days. I'm going to start sending that similar postcard. Postcard number 1, 2, and 3 might look like that. I might make slight variations on it. And why would I make slight variations on it? I want to split test my return phone call rate. I would assign each postcard type its own phone number so I could analyze how many phone calls I'm getting from that specific postcard. And I'd make slight variations to that postcard, and I'd send it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times to that same person within that 30 days because I want a deal. I told you at the beginning of this call, it's like, if I had to pull a deal off in 30 days, this is how I'd do it. Now, here's the caveat to what I just said. I would rewind back 2 to 3 minutes, and I told you I'd skip trace that phone number. While I was simultaneously sending out the postcards, I would start my text message marketing. I'd start my RVM marketing. I'd start my cold calling. Now, you're sitting here probably saying in the back of your head, you're contradicting yourself. On one side, you're sending out a postcard saying, are you tired of these people doing it? And then on the other side of it, you're saying that you're going to do it too. They both work. So if I had to pull a deal down, I'm going to attack both angles at the exact same time. And that is what I would be doing if I was trying to get a deal in the next 30 days. So for anybody that was watching that enjoyed this, please leave a like, please leave a comment, please subscribe to us on YouTube. But I feel wholeheartedly that if you walked out and you started including some direct mail, some postcards like I just described, and really put some thought into how to compose that postcard, things to say, things to do on there, I'd be willing to bet that your return phone call rate off of that postcard would be fairly phenomenal compared to what you've seen in the past. And that is what I'd be doing right now if I wanted to pull a deal down in the next 30 days. So for anybody that's watching, I'm going to open up the comments for, let's say about the next 2 to 3 minutes for people to join in, ask some questions. If it's related to this topic, I'll answer it. If it's not related to this topic, and I think it's a great question, I'll go ahead and queue it up for next week's coaching call. So I'm going to be doing this every Wednesday at 11 a.m. If you have never watched this before, please subscribe. We're available there on YouTube as well as Facebook. Join the Propelio group on Facebook. Go out there to YouTube and search for Propelio. We're there on Propelio TV. But these are the things that I'm going to be doing to try and snag that deal. So I don't know how much of a delay I have between what I'm saying and when y'all are actually seeing it. So I'm going to pause out here for a second. So Condi said, after a postcard, text, RVM, let me see if I can do that. I just tried something new. After postcard, text, RVM, what was the last thing you said? Probably cold call. You said text, RVM, postcard, text, RVM, and cold call. That's really about the only thing I can say on that side. What about handwritten versus postcard? For me, on a postcard with this particular avatar and with the message I want, handwritten might work for me, but I really want a really big, bold statement that's going to catch their attention on the front of it. And I feel like handwriting that out might look a little, how do I say that? it might not get across what I'm looking for. Like if you saw the cover thumbnail for this video, the one that I was using to market it, it's really big. It's got color on it. It's got that phone. It's got that text message. It's got, you know, the little graveyard with someone's hand sticking out. I want something that's going to catch that landlord's eye. Now, the handwritten certainly could do that, and handwritten was working really good in the past. I don't know how it's working right now. But I want something that's big and legible enough that I can catch their attention fast. I might have 1.5 seconds to get that landlord to pause long enough to read it, decide that it's interesting, flip it over and see the other side. So whatever it is, I want it to be catchy enough that it doesn't just get lost in the rubble of anything else. I want it to hit pain points. Like I might even put that little phone call on there with like a big, you know, the band sign, like the circle with the line cut through it. I might put a phone on there with that cut through it, and then some text messages that look angry, and then just a really big blurb down the side of it that says, tired of, and I'd probably put it in quotation mark, investors spamming your text and emails trying to buy your house. You know, if I read that internally in my mind, I'm reading it out loud in my mind. Am I tired of real estate investors spamming my emails or spamming my mail and text messages? Yes, I am. Well, I've just caught that person's attention. I've just jumped inside their head and I got them to break focus long enough to pay attention to what I had to say, and I'll get them to flip it around and take a look at it. Alpha is asking about skip tracing, Skip Genie, and I'm going to keep the conversations on topic for this. So Philip Jordan says, if someone tells you they are not interested through text, do you still call an RVM and vice versa, or just continue with postcards? That's going to be a personal decision for you. They're cracking down big time on this voice over IP marketing. So if someone tells you to stop and you choose to continue doing so, that's going to be a personal decision for you to make. If you ask some other questions, I'm going to scroll up here real quick, and then I'm going to call this a day. Where do you get your postcards done? Back in the day, I was using Image Media. Now there's a lot of different services, but Propelio does have direct mail within their system, and we're about to beef that up big time. Let me see, where else we got? All right, I think that's about the end of it. If you have a final question, jump it on there real quick before I call it a day. And I hope you got something out of this. I know it might not have been revelations for you, but I think if you've been in this long enough, you'd understand the value in what I just said. I really feel like if some of y'all really go out there and y'all commit to trying this out, like you can't go out there and do one postcard and be like, it didn't work. No, you didn't work. I'm sorry. That's just the truth. You didn't work. Commit to sending out, at least 500 of these, and do your 7-point touch. So 500 of them doesn't mean you're contacting 500 different landlords. You're contacting, 60 of them 7 times with a similar message. And then analyze your call rate. You've got to understand that the data and the analytics is important. You can't just send it out there and say it didn't work. You're going to have to set up phone numbers for your postcards. Each type of postcard should probably have its own phone number, so you can see which postcard you sent is getting you the return phone call. And you need to analyze it. You need to see how many phone calls you're getting in. If you're relatively new to this industry and you're getting a lot of phone calls coming in, but you're not getting any contracts, that might not be the postcard's fault. It might be your experience with negotiating and handling the phone calls. So that'll go into probably next week's broadcast. Next week's broadcast, I'm going to be discussing building a business out of this. I've always been a solopreneur. I've always worked strictly within my own team and maybe one person outside of me, maybe at most 2 people outside of me. I really tend to move fast and I'm able to take care of things on my own. And I kind of liked that vein. But to really build and give yourself freedom, you have to be able to pull yourself out of that solopreneurship role. And that's been part of my growing pains. I've been learning about that myself. So through what I've learned, I'd like to express some of that to y'all. So next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, I'm going to be discussing that. I'm going to go in and talk about some of the pain points that I experienced trying to grow and build a business, and how I found it to be both exciting because it was challenging, as well as rewarding because once you finally get it figured out, it can really open up your opportunities beyond yourself. As a solopreneur, you can only go so far before it's taxing and you have to pivot and give up. So I'm going to see if I got any questions coming in. A bunch of love from people, a bunch of people saying thank you, a bunch of people tagging their friends. Feel free to tag your friends. I've got Greg coming in here with a question. Let me read this real quick. How would you flip that and provide yourself as the solution after you've caught their attention with your postcard. One of the things that I think is important to think about when you're dealing with absentee landlords, that was the avatar I dug in on, so that's the one I'm going to stick with here. They like cash flow. They're landlords for a reason. They've got, their own particular reasons. Maybe, you can cash flow 5 different ways off of a single family rental. Amortization, inflation, depreciation, cash flow, and amortization. So those are 5 different ways you can cash flow off of a rental. This landlord might be open to some creative financing, and they might not be looking to take a haircut on their equity. They might be more sophisticated than the average person. They might not be more sophisticated than the average person. So some of the things I would do on the flip side of the postcard is let them know that I could possibly pay full retail value through the use of existing loan resources, things of like that nature. I try to make it concise. I don't want to get long-winded about it. It's like, hey, on the other side, I might say, I want to buy 123 Main Street from you. I am prepared and willing to pay full retail value through the use of existing loans and financing strategies. Or if you'd like, XYZ, I'd try to make sure that I would make it clear that I'm not needing a deep discount. One of the slogans I used on my postcards back in 2000, probably 15, 16, that was doing really good for me is I would say other people buy houses, but I can pay a lot more. For whatever reason, that one worked out well for me. So I used that one a lot. So these are just some ideas of things that I might incorporate into it or how I might word it. But those are some of the main things that I would look at, Greg, on the other side of it is I'd take into consideration that this avatar is accustomed to getting cash flow. There's a chance that I could probably convert them into some sort of owner financing where they can secure their cash flow and not have to worry about the tenants, toilets, and trash. I can turn them into the bank. I can secure me an asset, those types of things. So running through. All right. I feel like we're doing good. Appreciate you, everybody. I thank all of y'all for tuning in. Don't forget who brought this to you, Propelio.com, your source for MLS comps, websites for your business, lead lists, national lead lists, as well as a Driving for Dollars app. If you are all out there right now, open up your mobile phone. You don't have to have a credit card to do this. Just pop open your mobile phone, go to your app store, search for Propelio Mobile, download it. You can sign up with an email, and you don't have to have a credit card. So it's not going to hurt you to check it out. Have a great day. Thank you, each and every one of y'all, and I appreciate